This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
The cackling of the green wood hoopoe and the crunching of the grass as this elephant bull munches away at his breakfast. Welcome to your safari live from the African bush. This elephant bull slowly feeding up onto the crest where it's a little bit warmer, hidden away amongst these dry sticks and bushes. It's a gorgeous, cool morning here at Eco Training's Pridelands Conservancy. Hi, I'm Mike. Behind the camera we've got Seb, and of course we are enjoying a good sunrise here with these elephants. It's a gorgeous morning and we love it. We are so glad to be out here this morning on safari. We've been lucky so far. We just went a short distance and we ended up finding this elephant, although he's currently playing a game of hide and seek with us behind these bushes. I can try and move us a little bit. Let's see, is he going to come out? No, he's going to stay exactly where he is. I'm going to reverse us just a little bit so we can see this elephant slightly better. That should be a better view there. So as you can see, as always, there's not much green material for these elephants to feed on, so they're busy scouring for any short herbaceous plants and any roots and shoots that might be there. Oh, then he's going to go and join. There's another elephant that's just on the other side of this rise. It was with him and they've just separated as the other one moved off to find better feeding. And there's a few drongos in attendance, fork-tailed drongos, just catching the insects. I'm not going to keep repositioning because it's just lots of sticks. Oh, Krishna has asked a great question about how far elephants can travel. Good morning, Krishna. Elephants can travel long distances, incredibly long distances, in fact, if they are searching for food. You might find that an elephant will cover 10 or 15 kilometers easily in a night in search of the best shoots and roots and even water sometimes if they're particularly thirsty. Remember, they can cover ground more than 6 kilometers an hour. And we walk at a normal pace at about 6 kilometers an hour if we're doing a fast walk. Elephants probably much faster than that. And so, yeah, it's easy for them to cover that distance. As they walk, they just grab branches, they keep moving, keep grabbing branches. Yeah, and they can end up covering huge distances. In very, very dry areas, in desert-like areas like parts of Botswana, maybe even Namibia, you might find them covering 30, 40 kilometers in a day to move between feeding grounds. So that's amazing. You know, they're large animals with lots of stamina and a slow, plodding walk as they feed and move at the same time. Remember, they can carry their food with them because they are so big. They'll just literally grab a branch and just snack on it as they walk. They have to eat a lot though, so they do need to eventually stop somewhere to have a good feed.
Good morning from and beyond Ngala. My name is Eric, and behind camera as always is Owen. We were driving in a westerly direction this morning, trying to get into a slightly different area of the reserve, and we just saw this beautiful scene that we have in front of us. So with that beautiful silhouette of the knob thorn and the moon in the background, but what makes it even better is those mountains that we can see in the distance. And as the sun is rising directly behind us, we're getting these beautiful colors on the mountains. So they're not just the silhouette grey anymore, but they're starting to show some more pinks, some greens if you look very, very closely. And also just the birds that are around us. We've got some swains and spurfowls. There's a couple of youngsters that are communicating with one another, so there's a very high-pitched whistle going on. There was a whole flock of buffalo weavers that were around. And now there's a couple of magpie shrikes that are perched on the different sticks around us. So it's a beautiful scene for the morning. We're hoping that it's going to bring on some really good sightings for us today and tomorrow. cheetah, it does look like it, and I think it's the skillful camera work of Owen that makes the moon look like it's hanging from the tree. And already it's already starting to drop, and it's amazing, especially when it gets very close to the horizon, how quickly it looks like the moon and the sun both move. And they're moving at exactly the same time throughout the whole time they rise and set. But because we've got a closer frame of reference, so that tree or the mountains, it just looks like it's sinking and setting so much quicker. And it is a beautiful, beautiful moon, completely full. So we're not entirely sure what we're going to have a look for today, but we thought moving into a slightly different area of the reserve could be prosperous. So we're looking for anything really. So we're taking a bumble down towards one of the largest waterholes that we have in the western part of the reserve, and we can see what we can find there this morning. I'm sure if you've been watching for the last couple of weeks, Ngala has been outperforming itself, and so I hope that it continues with the luck that we've been having. And these are a couple of the birds that I was talking about, and that one there with the black and the white and that very, very long tail, that's the magpie shrike that we have. And then there was also another black and white bird that was in a much bigger flock, but they seem to have already moved off quite quickly, and those were the red-billed buffalo weavers. You might just see we do have a bit of condensation, so that's what that little white thing is just to try and clear the moisture off of the lens so we can show you the crystal clear image of what we're seeing. And there, those birds with the very, very long tails. And so it'll be a family. Sure. Yeah, Viet, that's a very interesting question. And I mean, if a bird broke its beak, I don't think they grow back. So I don't think it would have the ability to feed itself, which means that the likelihood of it surviving is probably very low. Having said that though, these beaks are very, very, very strong. They are very, very hard, and so I don't think I've ever really seen a bird with a broken beak myself. You think of the slightly more delicate species like the sunbirds, who've got these very, very long, skinny, thin beaks, and they're probably more likely to fall off. But then again, they tend to drink more of the nectar than actually catch and eat with the beak. So maybe they would have a slightly better chance of surviving. So this site is only getting more beautiful. Owen and I are heading straight towards the moon and see if we can get to that waterhole this morning.
So what we have here in this little casing is what this is a praying mantis egg case, also known as an uthika. That's a very fancy word for an egg case for a praying mantis. And it's really interesting, there's a little tiny spider on it. I don't know if you can see the spider, it's very, very small, but this egg case, this praying mantis egg case, looks like it's damaged or it's been opened already, meaning that either the praying mantis youngsters have already hatched and come out, or this little spider has been preying on them. Or maybe it's been damaged by something, I'm not sure. But a praying mantis can be quite big. I mean, maybe as long as my finger when they're adult. Giant green mantids can be bigger than this. And they lay this egg case, and there can be dozens of little eggs in here. And they're covered in this hard, waxy, sort of papery covering. And when they hatch out, the tiny praying mantises are very small, and they can get hunted and preyed upon by little spiders like that. That might be why the spider is actually here on this egg case. Maybe it was hunting and catching these tiny mantids as they were coming out. Yeah, sure, I can definitely try that. So I don't know if you can see it just above where my finger is. There's the tiny spider. It might not be easy to see from the You can see it there. So little brown spider, and yeah, there'll be dozens of little praying mantises, and the praying mantises become predators themselves once they're large enough. So this tiny spider might actually become the prey for these baby mantids once they get a bit older. Very cool.
Good morning, everyone. If you're wondering what kind of day it is going to be today, it's a day of love. We have found another mating pair on Juma. Oh, she's getting up. Hold on, she's getting up. It's definitely worth. I think they're going to mate, Theo. Definitely worth looking at them than myself. I am Lauren, no, and I do have Theo on camera. If they are mating, we don't want to miss it. This is Mohawk, the Avoca male, and I don't know which female it is just yet. Okay, we're going to go forward. We cannot see them from here. We've literally just stumbled upon them. I went to check the hyena den. Yep, they're going to mate. Stop snarling at her, Mohawk. Wow, what a wonderful start to the morning, everyone. Another mating pair. The other mating pair that we did have the other day was Blondie. This is Mohawk, and I will identify the female for you in just a moment. We're at Treehouse Dam, almost exactly where we had Mulwati last night, everyone. It was Mulwati. That was a male leopard. So, yes, I'm Lauren. Good to see you. And he vanished. Mulwati vanished. He's very skittish. And to be perfectly honest with y'all, it's really disappointing that the most dominant male in Juma these days is no longer Tingana. It's Mulwati. And it's just very frustrating that he's so skittish. He doesn't come from this area. He dispersed to this area. And of course, Tristan tried to start habituating him, and anytime we see him, we will try to begin that process. But I think what we need at this stage is to find him on a kill, preferably hoisted. James got very lucky with him killing a warthog, but it was on the ground. And what that meant was he can just use his powerful shoulder blades and pull the warthog further deep into the thicket. What we really need is Mulwati to hoist his kill, and for the vehicles to just spend, not too many vehicles, maybe just one, to spend time with them, even out of game drive time. We'll get permission and we'll just spend time with them so we can get used to the car, the smell, the sounds, just keep talking and begin that habituation process. But sadly, we've just not been given the chance here. So it's rather frustrating. Many of you know Tingana was such a relaxed male. We spent so much time with him. Okay, now that the mating pair have finished their business, I'm going to reposition. I found tracks for the entire pride. I sent David on them. I wanted to check the hyena den. No one's there, and I'm not surprised. We're about 100 meters away from the hyena den. There was a leopard here last night, and now we have a mating pair of lions. Okay, so my morning is sorted with this new honeymooners, so I'm going to reposition and hopefully we'll catch them mating again soon.
So we didn't have to move very far before we saw our first mammals, and it's a small herd of zebra who are slowly but surely moving through these nice open grasslands. And there's only 4 of them, and they were walking straight down the road. We had a little bit of a standoff, and then one decided to duck off and probably just going to do a slightly wider loop around us, and then the rest decided to follow. But again, the lighting is just so beautiful in this area at this time of morning. You can still see the Drakensberg in the background. and they're just about to disappear. So I think we might end up driving along the road to see if we can get towards that waterhole that I mentioned. There's actually there's a bird that's hiding itself. It looks just like it's the foliage. Can you see it there, Owen? So on the left hand side, it literally looks like a clump of leaves, just down to the left of the moon. So we'll start from afar, and even from now, if you look in the center of frame, there we go, there it is. And we almost went by without noticing at all, and then I just looked, it looked like it could have been a hornbill with that long tail, but let's have a closer look at it, because obviously as it turns, you can't see that very, very long bill, charismatic of any hornbill species. So it's got that long tail, it's got quite a robust bill, and then if you look at the colors that it has, that black, oh there we go, there's a really nice view of it. So very, very white front, on the brown on the back, and it's just starting to move around. And this is beautiful because the light is perfect. See if you can see the color of its eye. It should be this really, really distinctive bright red color as it hops down into the grass again. So that was a bird called a Burchell's cuckoo. And the way that it was up in the top of the tree all fluffed out, it must have been trying to warm up for the morning before it started its day. And it will live pretty much on the ground most of the time, unless it comes up to give its call or to warm up in the sun. And in this grassland, they can move very, very quickly running through the grass. Another look at that moon. So that was a really good start to the morning. A Burchell's zebra and a Burchell's cuckoo all in one frame. So I'm actually going to start up the engine and we'll get going towards that nice big waterhole where there's lots and lots of animals Owen's already promised us. So this is a road that I always really enjoy driving, not only because of the scenery, but the vegetation just seems to attract these general plains game. And so we might be seeing you again shortly if we have some cool animals just around the corner.
Our lines are off yet again. I just want to give them a bit of space. It's not too nice to always follow closely to mating lions, especially Mohawk. Out of all the Avoca males, Mohawk is the least relaxed. I'm not sure why. I don't know what's happened, but he's definitely not that relaxed around vehicles. He's doing a good job of attending to her. Oh! Oh, I thought we were getting creative there. I need to follow, I'm afraid, before I lose them. Maya is just where the hair grows. So once a lion gets into his prime, as Mohawk is right now, their mane grows. It grows a lot thicker and fuller, and it gets darker. The colour sort of directly relates to the amount of their mating. We're missing it. But I think this is the new bout of mating, which means they'll be doing it a lot more frequently and intensely. We can't see them. Yep, I think this relationship has just started. Already we've had 2 bouts of mating. They're at the start of their mating bout, their romantic relationship together for sure. Once they go flat, we'll reposition. If you compare it to the other day when we had Blondie and his lady, it definitely was not this frequent. They were exhausted, they were sleeping more than they were mating. This is a fresh relationship. Who needs Tinder out here in the bush, huh? So yes, Maya, I'm so sorry for your question. I got disturbed there because our lions were being active. Yes, so once they come into their prime, which is normally between 5 to 7 years old, the hair grows longer, thicker, and this is when the mane will be at its fullest. And the hair just grows down to the elbows too. It's just where lions have hair. And some people think it acts as sort of padding, a nice elbow pad. Male lions are known for, well, hurling their bodies at prey and at each other. Male lions will fight. Oh, that's a wonderful view. Are you enjoying the 5 out of 5 views of Blondie here? I don't want to turn on the engine because he's currently staring at us. So we're going to have to deal with this wonderful view of a section of his body. I'll move in just a moment, everyone. So yes, the hair just grows down to the elbow. I'm actually going to go forward and you'll be able to see how far down the hair extends on his chest. Are you ready? Just go forward a little bit here and you'll be able to see him. Oh, there's a delightful branch in the way. Anyway, you get the point. The hair extends all the way down the chest onto the elbows. And there's lots of different theories about lions' manes. People think that, well, some theories suggest that the thickness of the hair actually protects the lion in battle around the shoulders. And there's another sort of hypothesis in the animal kingdom called the handicap hypothesis. And what that means is just like an Anyala's long coat or a lion's mane, it's when a species has something that doesn't seem to fit its environment. So if you look at this lion, he's in a very hot, dry environment here in South Africa, and yet he's got this huge mane of thick, heavy hair. And you would think that that would weigh him down. It would cause him to not be as successful. He's got to run, he's got to fight, he's got to hunt, he's got to mate. Especially in summer here, it gets so hot. So the handicap hypothesis suggests that this is for sexual selection. So this is a way of saying to the ladies, hey ladies, I got this big mane of hair, but yet look at me, I'm magnificent, and I can still hunt, and I can still attract the ladies, and I can still be a magnificent male lion, yet I've got this handicap of this mane. So it's a really interesting hypothesis, and it's prevalent throughout the animal kingdom. Many different species have something that doesn't quite fit the environment, and it's said to be for that reason, a lion's mane. So I hope that answers your question, Maya. I feel we may need to reposition in a moment. It's not ideal looking at Mohawk's face through the thicket here. He's watching us. We're just going to be really careful around Mohawk. Rick-rack, no, it's not seasonal. It really, really depends on the lioness, when she comes into estrus and when she last had cubs, how old her cubs are, if the birth was successful. And of course, the males are always ready, shall we say. Yes, they just need the green light and they're ready to go. But for the lionesses, it's definitely different, and it depends on a whole sort of bunch of factors. Just gonna stay quiet. They're walking right next to the car. just gonna stay nice and quiet, everyone. Okay, they've moved off. Theo, is your heart pumping? I think it is. Okay, we're gonna keep a close eye on these lions for now.
Oh, a very cool morning here on and beyond Peter Braat Game Reserve. Hi, my name is Dewald, and behind the camera we've got Marcel, and we've actually just found some white rhinos there in the distance, and it seems like there's actually a tiny little calf with them as well, and they are quite far away, but we are gonna just stand by here in the distance and just wait for them to get a bit closer to a road or so. We don't want to off-road or anything like that around this youngster, as to not like stress it out. It's very, very small. I don't know if you can maybe get it. Oh, there you can just see it on the right hand side there of its mother. They are super cute when they are small like this, and it's been pretty playful since we've gotten here, like bouncing around mom every now and then. There's a couple of other rhinos in the area as well. Can't see them now. I think they might just be over the ridge or just behind mom and youngster there. But you can see the mother's head is down. She's just feeding all the time, and she has been circling around this area for quite a while, not really walking much in a certain distance, in a certain direction. But you can see the youngster's got his head down as well. Oh, there he's just like turning around. Look at that. Oh my goodness, that is cute. He's maybe heard something and had a bit of a fright and just running closer to mom to get next to her for her protection. See how both their heads are up now. They were both listening, and then mom's head's just gone down now, so she's relaxing down a bit. You can see the youngsters just standing really close to mom there. There is actually looking and listening in this direction. I wonder if the other rhinos are maybe walking around to the right hand side there, and it might be that the youngster's just hearing them. We always see this, especially with this youngster. So looking at its size, it's definitely going to be suckling on mum still for milk, and probably is not, well, definitely not eating any grass just yet. And that's why it's like walking around and being very inquisitive of everything around it, because it's not really relying on grass for food, so it's exploring everything around it. And then mom's starting to move. Let's see if it realizes that mom is far away. Crystal, that is so true. This is so cute, especially when they jump around like this, and this youngster is bouncing around. Let's see what happens if he realizes that mom is moving off a little bit. Oh, there he's just like slowly walking back now. Might pick up the pace and run a little bit towards mom if mom gets too far away from him. It looks like we might lose a bit of view of the youngster now. We can just see mom's back over the grass there. Can see maybe 1 or 2 ears like sticking out in the back there of the youngster. Oh, they are slowly walking, and they're enjoying these open plains. We're on these open rolling hills, and I'm sure there's quite a bit of grazing here for these white rhinos. And we had little bits of rain not too long ago, so I'm sure they are enjoying the little bit of green grass that's still coming out, or still coming through for now. Harley, that's a good question, and they actually do. Rhinos do tend to sometimes sleep for quite a while at night, finding a spot to lie down, often a few of them together and so, but because they have these big bodies and they have to keep that energy flowing, they do tend to stand up every now and then, feed a little bit, and then lie down again. But it depends on what their diet is like in the middle of the day. I mean, in the summer, if the grazing is very good, there's a good chance that they might sleep for long periods at night without really feeding because they could sustain themselves. But very good question. Like, I think when we got here early this morning, just as the sun was rising, she was already up and about and feeding. So I probably got up fairly early this morning. And you can imagine this female, she must be feeding even more so now because she has to produce milk for this youngster as well. So it's obviously taking a bit of energy of hers to produce this milk, and probably has to feed on even more grass than usual. You can just see her back like sticking out there on the horizon now. So Brema, that is also a very good question of the growth of the horn of youngsters, and we often use that to gauge their age, also using their size. But within like 6 months to a year, you can already see a little bump starting to grow on the rhino's face. So the front horn, that is the biggest horn, you see that fairly early on, already from just a couple of months old or so. But the second horn, the second bump just on the back of the nasal cavity, that actually starts growing just over 6 months old or so. And when they're about a year old, then you can really see defined bumps on their faces. And that's kind of how you can gauge when they'll stop, when this youngster will stop suckling. So when it gets that second horn and the first horn is just starting to push through, and it's about a year old, you know that it's going to start feeding on some grass. Oh, there's a second rhino coming out on the left-hand side now. And immediately just saw the reaction of the mother picking her head up, and look at the youngster coming closer to mom now as well. And actually coming to investigate the other rhino. Look how it's going past mom there. The other rhino doesn't look too interested. I'm just going to have a look through my binoculars, see if we can maybe see by the size of the body or so if that is maybe a bull or not. And looking at the one on the left hand side, if I look at that muscle that's behind its head, it looks like it's got quite a big muscle there compared to the female that we've been looking at the whole time. So I think this might be a big bull. And just by looking at the way that he's walking with his head down low, he's not feeding. He's probably smelling the ground. I wonder if this bull is on a territorial patrol. Let's see, he might come into a nice view for us as well. Cheek, that's not always the case, especially with rhinos. Their smell and hearing is very good. As you can see while we are filming these rhinos, their ears are quite big. Hopefully if they come closer we can show you how big their nostrils are, but their eyes are quite small and their eyesight is not great, so they rely a lot on hearing and smell as well. So I'm sure these rhinos can hear us and smell us, but almost 90% sure, 95% of the chance that they can definitely not, I don't think they can see us from where they are right now. They can see the bull just picked up his head now, listening towards us. And look how the rhino calf is now actually between mom and this bull. So I'm sure this mother is aware of the bull being close by, but she'll definitely keep the bull away from the youngster. But I think he's probably known that they're here because we saw all these rhinos together in the same area earlier. There he's listening straight towards us. So it just shows you how good his hearing is, because he is probably around 200 meters or so, 300 meters away from us, and he can definitely hear us. He's listening straight towards us. Just see his ears perking up there. And that youngster's head is down. He's probably nice and inquisitive, maybe smelling around or so. I'm hoping that this big white rhino bull, he keeps on going on his territorial patrol, and he'll actually keep on walking. And if he does that, then he might come a little bit closer to us.
We did see the female actually go to the dung midden and defecate there, and hopefully he'll also go to the dung midden, and we might see him also scent mark and maybe get some information of this female to see if she's an estrus or what the case is. But for now, it looks like he's just found a spot where there's some nice grazing for him. He stopped now and is feeding. That youngster is being quite weird there in the back, like he's got his head down. I wonder if there's maybe one or two little grasses that he's starting to chew on or so, just for the sake of inquisitivity. But that youngster, if you look at his ears, it's just like perked up the whole time, and he is listening to everything that's going on around him. And you can see every time Mom like starts moving away, he kind of like just creeps closer to her as well. There was actually quite a few rhinos around this area. I wonder if the rest have maybe moved off because this is a dominant bull, and they'll try and avoid being too close to him, especially if the females are not in estrus and if there's some young males around or so. This does look like a dominant bull, so I think I'm going to stay here and wait for them to come a bit closer to the road, and we can maybe get a better view of them. So we'll just hang around here for now.
I'm also hanging around. They haven't mated again yet, but they have moved position. It was a heart-stopping moment with Mohawk, and I really didn't want to talk or move. He is the Tandy of the lions. He snarls. He snarls a lot at vehicles. I don't think he would ever do anything, but he's just showing you that he's not comfortable with your presence, so it's important to take that into consideration. So if there's any moments I go completely silent, that's why. I don't think Mohawk would do anything, but I don't want to make him feel uncomfortable in his own environment with his lady friend. So we're quite far away, hoping to get a nice angle of them mating. But she runs, she gets up and runs, and mating can actually be initiated by the male or female in lions, but it's generally speaking the female. And she initiates it. She gets the urge, she stands up, and he follows suit. The males are just sort of like, well, shadows. And she does this by something called lordosis behavior. And what that means, it's present in all mammals. I think only mammals, but I'm not entirely sure if it extends into other sort of groups of animals. But I think it's mainly for mammals, and it's a presentation of the body for sexual receptivity, and it's the position, it's what she does. So basically she's ready, and she will present her rump, the sort of rear end of her body, arch her back, put her rear end right in front of his face to make sure he gets the signal, he gets the point, just in case he was missing what she was trying to say. And she lowers herself on her forelimbs, and her hind limbs are obviously ready. They're in a specific position for mating. They're ready for that. She can also arch the spine. It's a very specific sort of body posture, and it's called lordosis. And that's normally what the female does to entice the men. Or the males. She's trying to say, hey you, I'm ready, let's go. But mating can be initiated by both male and female. And with Blondie the other day, he was initiating it. As I was watching, it was sometimes coming from him. But so far... Oh, big yawn. It's coming from her. And the females continue to breed until they're very old. Because, of course, it's all about your reproductive success. And they're said to try and produce a litter every 2 years. So going back to that question that I was asked earlier by Rick Raff, every 2 years, they'll try and produce a successful litter. And in the Kruger it differs all across. So the Masai Mara will differ from the Serengeti, that will differ from the Kruger. And in the Kruger, the sort of average age of the first conception is around 48 months. So 2 years is sort of that mark when the female will start to come into estrus. And it's said not to be seasonal, but again, within the Kruger, there's obviously been studies done on the Kruger that the cubs were born between February and April. And this is sort of said to coincide with the prey species for their young. So they try to time it within the Kruger, but of course that will not always be the case. And for the Serengeti it's different. They say that there's a peak in birth between March and April. So it differs between areas. So when we answer these questions, it's sort of said to be averages that we're talking in. Jerry, I'm really not sure. It's a lot of mating and it's frequent. But as that week goes on, the sort of frequency drops. So it starts off very, very fast and furious, I always say. And then slowly, as that week goes on, look, he's up immediately. Look at that. Yep, they're going to mate soon. Look at her walking away. She's ensuring that he's following, and then she'll get into that special body posture. Now, lions actually have a very low fertility rate, which is exactly why they mate so often. And the figures differ, Jerry, but it's said a pair will mate every 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes for at least 4 to 5 days. Let's catch up with them. For at least 4 to 5 days, it's fast and it's furious. And it's said there, 6 seconds. It's pretty long. Okay, I'm going to try and catch up with this.
Once again, Pride Lands is producing prodigious, profuse herds of elephants. I tried to do some alliteration there. It's good to keep the brain working so early in the morning. As you can see, a big herd of elephants, including lots of youngsters, very, very tiny elephants all around here, which is great. And they're actually looking in the direction of Ndlovu Dam. So maybe later this morning, once we've finished searching around Pride Lands for whatever else is around, we'll come and wait at the dam and see elephants go and drink when it gets warmer. It's supposed to be a very warm day. It's supposed to get very cold tomorrow. It's gorgeous to see them in this morning light. They're probably staying here just like we are to get nice and warm. Plenty of elephants. There's a big herd actually. The group that we saw earlier was just a couple of males, so this is a big herd of lots of females. I actually should have counted them before we started. I wonder how many. There's probably well over 20 elephants here, I would say. Maybe even close to 30 if we count the ones that are in the distance. Wonderful. And look at the tiny, tiny babies. See how the babies are generally in the middle of the herd, just in case there is any danger. The females will quickly make a sound, usually quite a loud trumpet, and all the babies will rush to the middle, and all the adult females will circle around them. And it's a very, very formidable defense. I mean, I don't know many animals that would even consider trying to get amongst this big herd. In fact, I think this might be Susan's herd. If I see the one elephant in the middle there, it looks like it might be Susan. She's got very narrow tusks very close together. Some of you might know Susan as the very feisty female elephant that often comes right up to the vehicle to say hello. Let's put it that way. She seems very relaxed. I think she's actually becoming more and more calm with the vehicle. I think the first few times we saw her, she would come right up and she would do all sorts of weird elephant yoga poses. And now she seems to be in line with her. any nonsense. There's a female in front of us who has very nice tusks. Check this one out. They said she's got beautiful tusks for a female. Don't often see a female with such thick and well-developed tusks, quite widely spaced as well. She must be one of the older females in this group. She's got quite a grown calf behind her, and a very, very pronounced notch in her tusk as well, the left tusk. So she's probably a left-handed elephant or a left-trunked elephant. So you see that notch there, you can just see the right one is quite blunt, but the left one's got a notch. Perhaps she uses them for very specific tasks, each of those tusks. Remember, they are tools. They are tools, not only for defense, but also for tools. So she looks like she breaks a lot of grass and sticks over her left tusk, and maybe uses the right to gouge at the bark. But you can see that wonderful trunk. Momo's asking if it's easy for elephants to digest these branches, these dry branches that they're feeding on. Elephants don't have a great digestive system at the best of times, to be honest. They only digest about 40% of what they actually eat. Now you can really see those tusks, beautiful. So dry stuff eating, they're only really getting the outer layer of the bark from this elephant, then from the trees. They're not looking for the sticks and the branches. Just stuff. Just want the cambium layer, the underside of the bark. But that's not easy for them to digest. They crunch it up with their teeth and they try and soften it, and then they only digest 40%, and then it comes out the other side 60% undigested. That's why you'll see lots of birds and squirrels digging through elephant dung in the hopes they might find some undigested seeds and think, oh, here comes Susan. She's going to come and say good morning, as she always does. She loves us. I think she actually really craves a little bit of companionship with us. She always comes over. See how she's keeping her ears pressed close to her body to stay nice and warm. Good morning, Suze. How are you this morning? Are you well? She's a very, very feisty elephant, as you can see. She's not very big. She's right now only about as tall as me. Hey, Susan. Hey, Susan. That's enough now. Don't be a silly girl. Be silly now. Susan. Yes, it is me. It's Mike. She always comes super close, and then she just kind of feeds around, looks at us, and then just done her job. I think she's just investigating what we are. We speak quietly and calmly to her. Susan, that's enough. She's not a very big elephant yet. She's quite young, but she still has the potential to be very strong. She just needs... Hey, that's enough. I'm just going to stop. There she goes. So, she is very... Now she's showing us her bum. So, as you can see, she's very familiar with the vehicle. Susan. There's no food under the car. There's no food under the car, Susan. Hey, stop that. Silly girl.
Good morning from a beautiful day out here at Swalu. I couldn't resist climbing a tree because, number one, I love climbing trees and I love climbing mountains. But yeah, what a morning, eh? And I'm so glad that you're with Davy and myself. Davy is just doing this place. Like, he's just working incredible magic. Yesterday afternoon was one of the most mind-blowing afternoons I've had out here in a long time. And yeah, so it's just great having you with. Please ask us whatever questions you want. Just out of interest, this tree that I'm in, this old camel thorn tree, is one of the first times I ever saw a leopard on Swalu. Was at this tree. So it's got some like small significance to me, I guess. But yeah, it's just a beautiful day. This moon set later is going to be stunning. And every day out here is good. Every single day out here is amazing. and there's still 9 Shelbys, which is really good news. We are going to head up to the meerkats this morning. Rebecca's been there working on them. We didn't go there yesterday or the day before, I think, yeah. So we'll head out there. Oh, this tree's quite loose. No, I'm just kidding, it won't. But yeah, so we'll go out to the meerkats just now as well and see what they're up to. But it's great having you all with us. It's just fantastic, and whatever you're doing, wherever you are, if you're snoozing in bed or you got a cup of coffee or you're at work, it's just fantastic that you're able to share these kind of moments and these kind of experiences with us. Nothing like a sunrise and a sunset and a moonrise and a moonset. There's just, I guess it's also logical, because there can't be anything else like it. Oh, Bex has asked, do I have a favorite tree to climb? I absolutely love that question. I have no favorite trees to climb, simply because they're all my favorite. And the higher you can get, the better. And, yes, I've climbed some hairy, scary trees with lots of thorns for various reasons. On some occasions, I've had animals that have given me good incentive to climb trees, things like buffalo. But mostly it's just enjoying myself or looking for birds' nests or that kind of stuff and that. So yeah, it's all good fun. Any trees are good. Trees are your friends, though. Yep, old man.
Climbing trees. I definitely will not be doing that, everyone. Our pair have settled, and it's very interesting watching them. They can't keep their eyes open. You know that groggy way when you're so tired, you're watching a movie and your eyes are swimming in your head. That's what's happening. They're exhausted. I can barely watch 10 minutes of a movie these days and I'm gone. And it just reminds me of that feeling when you're so tired. Mohawk's eyes are swimming, but he keeps opening them to make sure his girlfriend, for the time being at least, is still there. He's facing her. He stays as close as possible to her so that he can feel as soon as she stands up. Now, they have such long, protracted copulations. Why? Why do they do this? Why is it such an intense affair? Why is it so frequent, so fast, and for a long time? It's not just a one-off sort of mating or copulation. It's very extended. And this is because when the female first goes into estrus, it helps stimulate her to ovulate. So obviously she will be releasing hormones and pheromones that the male picks up on through scent, and he knows that she's receptive. He knows that she's ready. It's not just from behavior. Behaviorally, she's showing him, but he will be able to understand a lot more than that through scent. So they start mating for such a long time because she has to be stimulated to ovulate. The first few days that they mate, she probably won't ovulate, and the mating will big yawn. And the mating will therefore not be successful. Also, this gives the female the chance to confuse paternity. So in the long run, it gives her the chance, because the male that begins mating with the female normally becomes so exhausted after 3 or 4 days, she can actually then move on to a different male. It gives her the chance to mate all the way through the coalition, which doesn't sound so nice, but she needs to do this. Biologically, she has to. She can mate with all the males. And once he gets so exhausted, he can walk away and actually leave her to a different coalition mate. Which sounds bizarre, but if the more males she mates with, especially within a coalition, it's safer for her and it's safer for her offspring, because all the coalition males will believe that the cubs are his, even when they're not. Science actually says that normally it's the first male that starts mating with her that will be the most successful. Due to genetics, it's normally the first male that sort of wins the battle. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because the second male or the third male will still assume, because he's mated with her, that the offspring are his. And therefore, they're all invested to protect the offspring. It's fascinating. So that's why lions mate in the way that they do. She's got to be stimulated to ovulate, and that's done through mating. And it's fascinating. The male, through smelling, through doing the Fleming grimace and also tasting the chemicals in the air, processing it through his organ of Jacobson, which sends all the signals to the brain, he will understand, in the only way that a lion can, at what stage she's at as well. There'll be different scents from when she starts to go into estrus, when she's in the peak of her estrus, and then when she's at the end of her estrus cycle. He will understand that. The organ of Jacobson is a vomeronasal organ, and it's fascinating. It's in the palate of the mouth, connects in the sort of nasal passages, the roof of the mouth and the esophagus, and it's basically a chemoreceptive organ containing many, many glands that detect the hormone levels. So immediately, any male lion will understand the reproductive status of the female lion at any point. All he needs to do is a good old Fleming grimace. He has to be close to her rear end to do this, but still. They have such a low fertility rate, really, they really do, and that's why they mate and mate and mate and mate and mate some more to make sure that it's successful. They can't afford for it not to be. Such a small percentage of mating actually results in conception, which is why they do it continuously. Butterfly, if a male lion tries to mate with a female when she's not in estrus, absolutely. I think she would swipe them with her paw. But here we go. They're going to walk right behind the car again. She seems to walk about 50 meters before she then lies down. Just going to make sure that they move far enough. She walks and she walks and she walks. Then she lies down for him. I can see a vehicle there. They're walking directly towards the hyena den. It's not active, I've already checked, but the cubs, of course, will be inside. The lions will not know that. Okay, I think we're going to follow before we lose them, unless they stop and do their thing. No, we need to follow. Okay, it's going to be tricky to follow them here. It's very thick. It may take us some time, and I need to get on that game drive radio, I'm afraid. Whew, that was nearly my head. Rexon, is that you?
What you got here?
Mating lions. Sorry, my radio's not working well today.
You got a nice angle. Okay, so we're just trying to get a view of this dove's nest again. David, just say when you can see it properly. So when you get that nice back. There we go. You got a bit of backlight on that nest there. So we were hoping to see there's that little fluffy thing in the middle there. Those are the chicks. There we go. There we go. Look at that. So there were actually a lot of doves down at the dead tree where we started this morning with you. So they've just come off feeding. So I'm guessing that the female here has probably just left these chicks probably 10-15 minutes ago to start feeding for the day, and then she'll come back intermittently during the day to carry on feeding. Yes, they are little fluff balls, eh? But we'll keep following these two. I think there's 2 or 3. Anyway, no, there's 3. I think there's 3 in this nest. So we'll follow them on their little journey as well. Yeah, between these 3, the shelducks and the meerkats. What is it about 3s? 3 meerkat pups, 3 doves, 9 shelbies. Multiples of 3, let's say. Before I get shouted out. 9 is not 3. Just it's incredible how exposed they are now to the danger of predation. I mean, the tree is, for all intents and purposes, leafless. So those little guys are just sitting out there in the open. And remember we were saying yesterday, it's goshawk nesting season. So we need to be keeping our eyes open for any sign of goshawks. We actually saw a melanistic one yesterday very, very briefly. So if I can find one of those and show them to you, that would be absolutely incredible. Yes, there's so many fun little things to see in the bush. Every single day, doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter where you stop. Even if it's just bare sand, you can always find something. And these little guys have started nesting under our noses. And just think about that. That was all the pairing up. In other words, finding partners, collecting nesting material, selecting the nesting site, collecting nesting material, building it, laying eggs, incubating, everything. And we only find them like the day before the eggs hatched, or the day, probably 3-4 days after the eggs hatched. I mean, this is just going on all over the place, and just shows you just got to be more observant. I can hear pygmy falcons here somewhere. Sorry, you guys will never hear that with the audio, but I can hear pygmy falcons somewhere in the distance. Yeah, look at that! Yes, beautiful. Wow. Now the Kalahari is a special place, eh? Maybe you can all come join us here one day, and then I'll be happy. Yeah.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family.
Good morning and welcome to Djuma out here in the Sabi Sands. We have been on an incredible tracking mission this morning, and we are almost there, I believe. We've been tracking what we think is the Unkahumas, and they have been moving and moving and moving. Craig and I have not stopped. We have just been following, off the vehicle, on the vehicle, running through the block, on the game paths, lose the tracks, get back on. So it's been quite an exciting morning. Hopefully, though, we're going to find them. My name is David Hancock on camera. Craig is assisting, and not only being a good cam op, but he's actually quite a good tracker, I must say. So it's very nice to have an experienced cam op that's been in the bush a while, because if I miss something on the left of the vehicle, then he picks it up, and we're working well together as a team. So hopefully we come right with these line tracks. As you can see here on the ground, we've got a lovely fresh track. This is no more than a couple hours old. I'll circle it so you can see exactly. like I say, what I believe to be the Nkuhumas. And what's exciting is they are now on the tracks of buffalo. So, with some luck, we might find that they've actually caught a buffalo in the night, and that would just be good, because that means that they're going to be static, and hopefully a bit of feeding action, but no promises yet. We are now on Simambili. We crossed over, and we are not too far from an area where we can't go anymore, so let's hope we catch up to them before then. But nonetheless, an exciting tracking morning. If you have any questions specifically about tracking and trailing, which is what we're doing this morning, please send them in. Remember your hashtag WildEarth and kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. We're going to be carrying on down this road. It looks like they've cut into this big open area, and seeing what we can find. And yeah, hopefully we come right. Using all the tricks in the book to follow up on the tracks. There's many different ways that we use, many different methods to determine how fresh a track is, which way it's heading, and perhaps what they're doing. So let's give it a go. Let's see what we can find.
Good luck, David. Good luck. I picked up on those tracks. The Nkuhuma Pride come in past Treehouse. We're not too far away from there now. And the tracks go right past the hyena den as well. Now, don't worry, the cubs will be fine, but that's another reason that we don't actually stay there when there's no adults, because it encourages the cubs to be very relaxed around any sort of noise or movement. It makes them, well, it doesn't make them, but it can cause them to be more inquisitive, which means they come out to see what's going on. And if there's a pride of lions walking past, then that's not an ideal scenario. The hyena den is sort of located in the block near Treehouse Dam, but there's a real prominent game path, and a lot of our characters use it. We've had Tandy on this game path, we had Mulwati there last night, Shudulu, Nkuhumas. It's a very prominent path, and they've obviously walked right past there last night, so hopefully David can manage to track the rest of the pride. There's something special about watching lions mating. He protects her no end, and she knows she's got his protection. Susan, I'm not sure why you think she would be forced out of the pride if she can't produce cubs. I really don't think that would happen at all. She's very much part of the pride. The female lion dynamics in the pride are everything. They're absolutely everything to a lioness, for protection, assistance. If she can't produce cubs, that's no reason that she would be kicked out of the pride. She would keep trying. She's obviously coming into estrus, which is why a male would be mating with her. But if it was not successful, then that happens. She'll come into estrus again and continue mating again. Her role in the pride is integral. There is no reason she would be kicked out of her pride just because she isn't able to have cubs. She's obviously very much separated from the pride right now. He's separated from his mate. The Avoca boys are very busy at the moment. And the Avoca boys, I was actually chatting about this the other day. They've changed a lot from when they first arrived here to now. They're injured, yes, but physically they've changed a lot. They've got bigger, and that mane has really filled out, got darker, longer, and it shows you that the Avoca Coalition are definitely in their prime here. They had a really sort of easy establishment here. They arrived from Avoca, they're 7 years old, and there was really no male coalition to fight with. There was no challenge. There was no aggressive takeover. Djuma Game Reserve was just available for the pickings. It was free on the market. The Birmingham boys had gone down south and just left Djuma available. So the Avocats really didn't have a challenge. Where are we going to go now? I think they're camera shy. That's why we're not turning on the engine immediately to follow them. We've got a camera. We can follow them with the lens. But they're walking straight to the hyena den. Literally on trajectory with it. Okay, oh, she's running. They're going to meet. I am going to try and catch up with this pair because I need to make sure my hyena den is okay.
So we've just waited quite a while, and then our tracking vehicle let us know that there's actually a different group of rhinos, and we've just found this group of white rhinos here, and it seems like it's another mother with a calf and four adults. So, and there you can see the mother and the youngster on the left hand side, and there's actually a big bull, just like the other set of rhinos that we had, that's slowly following them. And I wonder if this bull is maybe hoping that this female with the calf is coming into estrus or something like that. But there was quite a nice interaction just now, so we'll just hang around and see what happens. She turned around to him and made like a grunting sound, telling him to keep his distance. But have a look at, there's actually a black bird in that little bush just behind the mother there. That is a fork-tailed drongo, and that bird's just hawking the insects that these rhinos are disturbing. Oh, look at the youngster coming onto the road there. Oh, giving us a beautiful view. Look at that. Okay, I'm gonna just talk a little bit softer. Look how inquisitive he is, coming straight towards us. Oh my goodness, this is so cool. Oh, look at those lips. I'm going to ask Marcel to zoom in onto those lips there of this youngster. Kerry, they actually do have a loose social structure. So small groups of rhinos like this, often known by the collective noun as crashes, are quite common. Dominant bulls like this one close to the mother, he most probably will be alone most of the time, only meeting up with others when he needs to mate or fight for territory or so. But it's not uncommon to find groups of rhinos together. Often youngsters or sub-adults of similar age or so. Look at this youngster, he's got like a piece of grass in his mouth there. So remember how we were talking about the age of young rhinos and when they start feeding? So this one is probably just under a year old or close to a year old. And you can see he's obviously starting to enjoy a bit of grass, but still very inquisitive. Oh, there he's coming closer. Look at this. Oh, this is so cool. How are you doing, little guy? And then there's some red-billed oxpeckers also flying between the rhinos. He's just coming to listen to us. I think the wind is blowing our scent away from him, so he's not sure what we are. He can hear us, but I don't think he can smell us that well. Oh, Mom's just picked her head up, looking at what the youngster's doing. There we go. Okay, keeping very quiet now. Let's see what happens. Mom's coming a little bit closer to just check what this youngster's up to. Oh, look, here comes the bulls coming closer as well. Let's see what happens. Sophie, they actually make quite a few different sounds, all even squeaking sounds, grunting sounds, but a lot of it has to do with body language as well. So while we're sitting here, we're looking at their tails. If their tails curl up, it means that they are agitated. See how this female just turned back towards the bull behind them now, just for a moment. And that's also a lot of communication happening. maybe even the ears being pulled back is also a sign of irritation or so. So a lot of it's body language, but they do make quite a few different sounds. Hopefully this bull comes a bit closer and then we might hear the sound that the female makes. Oh, look, how incredible is this? We are literally not even 10 meters away from these rhinos. So inquisitive. And look at this, you can see properly now with this youngster being so close, that flat mouth that the white rhino is known for. And you can just imagine how well this mouth of this youngster is developed to at some point be feeding on grass and just be pulling them off very easily. See our mom's like listening to us with her one ear and the other ear is pointing there towards the bull. And this youngster is also listening to my voice. Very inquisitive of what's going on here. Not every day you get to spend time with rhinos so close to you. This is incredible. Actually, if I'm going to ask Marcel to maybe zoom in onto their feet. You don't often get to see their feet because they're often standing in the grass or so, and you'll see that they've got 3 big toes, and it's very different to a lot of other animals with having odd-toed feet. This youngster is super cute. And I can just see that the second horn on its face, I can basically just see a tiny little bump starting. So maybe it's just about a year old. Yeah, Eleanor, it's such a cute little rhino. Oh my goodness. And you can see Mom is not too worried. Looking at her behavior, she's more worried about the bull coming closer to her than us being here. She's listening to us, obviously being cautious, but her tail's not curled up or anything, so not too worried about us at all. They're starting to move off. Let's see, this bull might be following them everywhere they go. Just walking straight in front of us. So Diana, that is a good question, and that is part of our anti-poaching effort on and beyond Pinner Private Game Reserve. So it's a method of identifying different individuals and so on by notching the ears, and that in that way we identify rhinos and we'll put them into like a system, and if we know we haven't identified a rhino for quite a while, we maybe go and search for it, and it's basically for research purposes as well, obviously doing a lot of research, the movement of different individuals and so on. But you might find that there are rhinos that have notches and like little nicks in the ears just from over the years having ticks feeding on the blood in the ears or on the edges of the ears or so. Slowly moving off the mom and the youngster. I'm going to ask Marcel to actually go back to the bull here. He's now standing right against the tree here, and he's got quite a bit of a different coloration to him, and that is because he has been, oh look at that, he's scent marking, curling up his tail, and I think he might be urinating. Yeah, just spraying the urine where he's going. Let's see if we can maybe see it. There his tail went down again. So he was actually mud wallowing either yesterday afternoon or maybe early this morning. Probably yesterday afternoon. He doesn't look too wet. Trying to get rid of some of the external parasites and also to cool down. But he's following this mom, because I wonder if this female is maybe showing some signs, or maybe you can just start to smell that she's going into estrus. There's now a young bull that's standing next to the road, to the right hand side. Let me just quickly have a look through the binoculars. yeah, it looks like a young male, and this bull is just, the big bull has just turned towards him, and that's the body language that we're talking about. He just turned towards him, showed his face towards him, and that other younger bull is now walking away from us, trying to keep his distance. What incredible interactions seeing this, because this young bull, I'm sure he's probably not interested in mating just yet. I wonder if he's maybe a previous calf of this female, and he's just trying to stay close to mom also, trying to not to leave her just yet. Could be that he's just moving with the rest of the little crash of rhinos that we have here. Right, I think, let's see if we can maybe creep a little bit forward. I'm just going to move the vehicle up the road here, and then we can film a little bit down the hill. Maybe get a view of, maybe get a view of the female with the youngster a little bit better. But I think we're going to stick around with these rhinos for now, and maybe see if they move closer to a different road or so.
Still haven't been able to reach the waterhole that we're going after this morning, and the reason being is that we got distracted by this young male leopard, and he hasn't moved very far in the last 12 hours since we last saw him with Nikki last night. He's pretty much in exactly the same spot. We have, however, so if you weren't watching yesterday at all, this is one of the young sub-adults of the Shitsalala female, and this is one of the male cubs. And we have seen his tracks up and down the road, so it seems like in the last 12 hours or so he would have gone a walkabout and maybe just exploring different sounds. And at the moment you can see his head is up and he's listening down in towards the drainage line, where there are a couple of spur fowls that are calling quite loudly. And he's quite focused on them. And so that's probably what he would have been doing the whole night, is not wandering too far from this spot, but just hearing little noises and sounds that he might have gone to quickly go and investigate, maybe catch a mongoose or two, and then return back to the same spot and wait for his mother to return. And in such a nice spot for this morning. I mean, he's on this really beautiful termite mound, which is pretty much eye level for us, so we get to see such a nice view of his face, especially when he turns like this. And although there is a bit of grass in front of his face, it is quite pretty to see that those really nice big golden eyes looking at us now. And that's such an advantage of being on an elevated spot like this. I mean, not only gives him the opportunity to warm up in the nice morning sun, but then it just gives him a little bit of a height advantage, so he gets to see that extra 4 or 5 meters further into the bush. And so if there is something that's potentially dangerous, he might have just, another couple of split seconds to react and run into an area where he's slightly less exposed and more safe. And to me, that would be straight down towards the drainage line, which is directly away from him. You can see where all of those green trees are in the screen. That's the spot that he would head to if he was feeling threatened by anything. But over the last week or so, Audrey, that's a good question, and I'll have to see if I can come back to you. I would imagine that their whiskers grow longer with age, because those whiskers are a good example, basically as wide as their body is, and their bodies get wider with age, so I would imagine that their whiskers would grow as well. So I mean, from past experience, I think definitely they will grow. When they stop growing, I'm not sure, but eventually they will. But it's just such a nice example. I mean, over the last week or so, we've had 2 different leopards with almost exactly the same behaviors. And it just goes to show that if a predator doesn't feel the need to move, it won't. I mean, that young male leopard we saw in that Natal mahogany tree was there for 6 days. He had food, he didn't really need to move anywhere, so he didn't. And he was there for 6 days. This is day number 3, I think, for this young male on this termite mound. And so it just goes to show how important they feel the conservation of their energy is. They're not going to expend their energy if they don't need to. And instead of moving off going looking for the mother, he's very happy to just sit on that termite mound, explore a little bit around him, but eventually pretty much wait in the same area for his mother to return. And it's so interesting to see that we're seeing this young male by itself a lot more. We tend to see the female even less than him. And I wonder if that's maybe because she's got more energy, or she's following the mother around a little bit more. It could be that she's just a little bit more camera shy and she's slightly more nervous, so she will head towards areas where she feels slightly more protected, like down in that drainage line where he's looking now. See, although he looks like he's resting, he is reacting to noises around him. And it could be just as subtle as that ear movement. So whenever we move slightly and make an odd noise, that ear will just pan towards us and he'll focus on us for a little bit, and then he'll react to another bird in the distance. But he looks like he is sleeping, and he's in the nice spot, so he could be there for the majority of the afternoon. We are going to head towards that water hole and see if there's anything there for the morning.
From one waterhole to another, we've just come down to Simbambili Dam. Followed the buffalo and lion tracks down here to the dam, where the buffalo drank. Lion trailing not too far behind. And they've headed south from here. But a nice spot to just stop briefly and admire this hippo. Mr. Scuba Steve in the dam, chilling in his own private jacuzzi. One of the benefits about trekking is often they'll take you on a chase through the bush and you end up bumping into other interesting things. Lovely to stop and read the ground, see what happened. Just imagine a couple hours ago this whole waterhole was full of a big herd of buffalo, drinking and bellowing and doing what buffalo do, with potential drama unfolding as the Nkuhumas follow them. And I really am curious as to whether or not there was a kill made. Just looking at the ground here, there's buffalo tracks all over the show. I'm going to try and point out, perhaps there's some fresh dung over there. If we walk over there, I'll show you. One of the most important bits about trekking is trying to ascertain or determine how fresh something is. As you can see here by this buffalo dung, nice and fresh, still moist, so only a couple hours old. If you really wanted to be sure, you could feel it, feel the warmth This has still got a little bit to it. It's cooling down there and starting to crust, so not fresh, but not very old either. The line's right behind, so quite exciting to wonder what drama unfolded here in the night. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to carry on. If you really want to be fancy about it, then you can actually feel right on the inside of the dung. And the old bushman trick, they have a little taste to see how far ahead it is. No, that was a joke. I didn't actually lick that finger, don't worry. Not that crazy. Although, I guess it would only be grass, eh? So not the end of the world. What has transpired here in the evening? The magic of the bush, you never know at night what happened. And that's the best part about a morning drive. You go out and read the ground like it's a newspaper. All the tricks of the trade. Try and figure out what happened, what transpired. Listen, smell. Try and determine. I really do wonder though, did the Nkuhumas succeed in their hunt? It's been quite a wild morning for Craig and I. We've been trekking probably about 6-7 kilometers now, hot on the trail of these lion. We've just slowed down now to see what's happened down here at the waterhole. Warming up nicely. I'm sure the lion are flat by now if they didn't succeed in a kill. And they're probably lying somewhere. Perhaps in the big open area of Simbambili. I absolutely love tracking and trailing. It's one of the most rewarding things you can do in the bush. It's obviously super exciting to come around a corner and just spot lion lying in the road, but when you work for them all morning, when it takes your whole morning game drive of tracking and trailing, and then you eventually find them, it's such a reward. Chelsea, you've asked, will this dam get bigger in the summer? It most certainly will as the rains come. This dam is at the bottom of a drainage line. So if we ask Craig to pan to the right a bit onto the inlet, Chelsea, there is where the dam has the inlet. That's where the water flows in. So it's basically a large drainage line. That inlet flows up. The contours of the earth will bring all the little streams of water from the heavy summer rains down into one spot. As they collect, they flow down that drainage line through that inlet and will fill up this dam significantly. You can actually see to the left and the right, almost where the grass starts. That's about as high as the dam normally gets. But of course, if we have heavy rains, then it can even overflow. But not yet. It's still going to be a couple months before those summer rains come and bring life to the bush once again.
So we've been sitting with these rhinos for quite a while now, and as you can see, we are currently in frame. We have two of similar size, and these are actually two other bulls that have now kind of come into the area. But as you can see, they're just sticking together. And then if Marcel just pans to the right hand side, you'll see that it's actually the mother with the calf and the big bull. They've moved off quite a distance, but that big bull is keeping himself in between the mother and the calf and these other two younger bulls. So these two other younger bulls, they are definitely of a similar age, and that's probably why they're hanging around. They definitely look the same size, and I think they are probably following this this female because they can smell that she's going into estrus at some point and trying their luck. But obviously the big dominant bull is here to to make sure that they don't get the chance to reproduce while he's around. But they are for now just settling down. They all kind of just feeding and so, but they're slowly heading down the hill here. As you can see, it slopes down quite a bit, and there might be a few mud wallows and stuff at the bottom in these drainage lines that we have in this area. And I wonder if they're slowly but surely heading in that direction as it warms up a little bit. There you can see the mom and youngsters just starting to move off now, and it's almost like they all just decided at once that they're going to start moving, because I can in the distance even see some buffalo also moving down into the dry riverbed there. And the youngster actually has what looks like a red-billed oxpeck on its back there. Abigail, rhinos can live up to about 30 years or so. It depends on different areas and a lot of different aspects, but that's the average life expectancy of a rhino in the wild. Quite long compared to other animals actually. But looking at these rhinos here in front of us, you can see they're quite big. They're basically like a small tank. So they are quite sturdy animals, and they don't really have that many natural predators. I mean, they do get predated on every now and then, like at Ngala and beyond Ngala, the other property that's close to the Kruger National Park, that's also on WildEarth. They had a rhino not too long ago being taken down by some hyenas, and that's quite incredible. Just shows you that hyenas also apex predators. But on Pinna itself and beyond Pinna, like, I haven't really heard about rhinos getting predated on. Oh, actually, now that I think of it, there was a while ago where we suspected one being taken down by a pride of lions, but it's usually younger ones or so. But yeah, like I said, they live for pretty long compared to other animals. See, they are starting to spread out quite a bit, and as it's warming up, they are using the nice winter warmth and winter sun to heat themselves up a little bit, and keeping on feeding. Heads down all the time. Just saw like a hawk or something flying in the background there as well. But you can see mom and youngster being followed there by that other big bull all the way, and I'm sure he's going to stick around with them until she allows him to mate. Cheeks, I'm not too sure exactly how thick a rhino skin is, but I can tell you that it's not as thick as an elephant skin. An elephant skin is probably around a centimeter to 2 centimeters thick, with like a tiny little fat layer. But if you look at these rhinos, especially this one, maybe Marcel can get to this one here on the left hand side for us, then you'll see that you can actually see the ribs and everything. The skin is very tight around the body, and just the way that the shadows are falling at the moment with the sun, you can actually see how tight the skin is, and that gives you kind of an idea of how thick the skin is. I think it's very, very tough. I've been privileged to be part of conservation work with rhinos and being able to touch the skin and so very tough skin. But I think it's probably, if I should estimate, probably around a centimeter thick or so, which is still, or maybe a half centimeter, which is still very thick compared to what our skin is like, right? But you can see how tough it is. And this one is actually turning and feeding up a little bit towards us. Interesting how they kind of just circle around in this same area, just with their heads down, feeding wherever the grass is the best. And when we were driving in this direction, we needed to identify if these were black or white rhinos, but we saw from the few individuals that is here, like on the hillside, through our binoculars, they've got that bump on their backs, and that told us that these were white rhinos, and the fact that they were feeding on some grass. But I think I'm going to keep on going, see if we can go and get a view of those buffaloes we were talking about earlier.
Well, we have found something really awesome. There was a dark chanting goshawk that we found earlier that tried to make a kill, was unsuccessful, and we've just found another dark chanting goshawk that has made a kill. It caught a spurfowl or a francolin basically right next to our vehicle. We didn't see the kill, but we just saw this thing flush out of the grass with the whole francolin, which is almost the size of this bird, to be honest. And it's managed to kill it, and it's been harassed by smaller birds, and it kept flying to new spots, but now it seems to have found itself a nice sheltered spot to feed on its hard-won meal. What an awesome thing to find this morning. Goshawks are very, very agile predators, often catching birds on the ground, and it's caught this francolin in a nice grassy area. Spectacular to see. Don't often get to see this bird. In fact, this might be the first time I've seen a dark chanting goshawk here at Pride Lands, and what a way to see one. Look at those long legs. Do you see? I mean, it's not easy to see them, but this bird's got very, very long legs, and there's no feathers on the bottom half of its legs, specifically so that it can catch things on the ground without getting its legs tangled up with all the feathers, and also so that the things that it catches, which might sometimes include snakes and other birds with sharp talons, can't hurt them. The feathers are soft, whereas scales, which are on the bottom half of these legs, are quite hard, like armor. So it means it can shoot down and grab and pin things on the ground without their legs being bitten and torn by the sharp beaks and claws of other birds that they might catch. Really, really, really awesome. I wonder, have you ever seen a dark chanting goshawk before? Such a cool bird. It's called a goshawk, a dark chanting goshawk, because of the call that it makes. It's a nice, steady, whistled call. See how it stops every now and again to look up and just check that there's nothing stalking closer to it, and then it puts its head back down to feeding. It's not a very big bird. I'm just going to look up the size, probably about 40 centimeters, and that includes, the tail and the head. Critter Freak, a new bird for you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you were able to see it with us. I'm just going to quickly look up the dark chanting goshawk to see exactly how big it is, because I think I said about 40 centimeters, and 45 centimeters. So, it's a big bird as far as birds go, but there are many larger predators that move around here. Something like a wildcat could easily catch this, or even a leopard will often catch birds like this if they're unaware. It's not much of a meal, but it's something, and this bird needs to be very, very careful. Even larger birds of prey, the eagles and the hawk eagles could easily try and catch this goshawk. So it does need to be quite wary. In fact, I think that's why it's gone into the ground like this, because in a tree, especially now with the very little, easy for them to be spotted, the silhouette, by other eagles and birds of prey. So it goes to the ground like this in order to feed amongst the grass, where it can hopefully remain undetected. That's so awesome. I'm just checking. The food is it's a very interesting question, Cherryberry. How are birds named? Birds are named often regarding the features or they have, sometimes even the behaviors. So this bird is called a dark chanting goshawk. So it's darker than the pale chanting goshawk, and it's a chanting because of the call that it makes, this long drawn out call. And for example, fish eagles catching fish, and the bataleurs, apparently roughly translated to someone who's like an acrobat or a tightrope walker. So that's because of the way they fly with their wings that move. So yeah, birds are often named after the way they look or the behaviors or the sounds they make. And in many different countries, birds are called, so the same bird might be called different things. And that's actually causes much confusion to birders, because you'll go with your bird book and be calling a bird one thing and it's actually the other thing. So slowly but surely, all the birds' names around the world, if there's the same species that occurs somewhere else, they'll change the name so that everyone uses the same name, so it's easier for identifying. Much like trees, for example, we use the scientific names often for trees so that we don't get confused when we talk to someone from a different area, when we might be talking about the same tree. And as I was saying earlier about about the food that they eat. This one eats mostly small mammals, birds, snakes, lizards, and insects. So most things that actually occur on the ground. And as I was saying, you can just see the bottom of the legs now a little bit. Very, very bright orange color. And they're catching things like snakes and small mammals. And these things can bite and scratch and sometimes have venom. So those armored legs, those scaled legs do help to protect them from being bitten or scratched. Amazing. It's quite a big meal for this bird, so it's going to most of this franklin, I'm sure, in one sitting, and then probably you'll notice it'll have just below its neck will be very, very full, and that's basically where it stores food so it can start to digest it. And often many birds, not this particular type, but many birds do actually swallow small stones and bits of sand in order to help them to grind up the food. They generally don't have very, very strong stomach acids, so they do need sometimes a bit of help. That's really great. Seb, have you seen this bird catch something like this before?
No.
First time for you?
First time ever.
Awesome. First time for me too.
So we've just got some sleepy meerkats that have only just got out of bed now. So they've been having a bit of a lie-in this morning. It is a little bit breezy, so it's understandable as well. And as you'll notice, if Darby just zooms out even a fraction, you'll see that they're back at what we call the Boskia burrows. So it's this pretty exposed environment that they're in here, but there's a bit of grass around, and then they've got the small little bush clump right around the actual burrow system as well. So their visibility from here is, with these bush clump at the burrow is actually a little bit obscured, and the holes are actually on the shady side of these bushes. But they are out of bed now. Good lesson there for all of us. Is if you don't need to get out of bed, don't get out of bed. So, coming to the burrow system, it's quite interesting that we've seen that they've used that other burrow for a long time, what we call the far burrows. This is Boskia burrows, and they use this one a lot more intermittently than the other ones. But within their territory, and their territory can be, because actually brown hyena tracks came through here. All right, so that's interesting. A brown hyena won't do anything to a meerkat. They're kind of like operating at two very different levels, two different times of day. I'm more interested in looking for things like African wildcat tracks, as we know, honey badgers, those kind of things. And as we go into summer, also snake tracks and monitor lizards. These monitor lizards, they can get like that size. This is called a rock monitor, where our colleagues are working. They've got them as well, but they also got water monitor lizards, these much, much bigger ones. But a monitor lizard would get stuck into a burrow system like this. Anyway, I'm losing my train of thought here. But in terms of their territory sizes and their burrow systems, this group it tends to be using just these two. They've actually got another burrow that they occasionally use about 400 meters down in that direction there, but they haven't used that for quite some time. So it seems that they're going to be alternating just between these two burrow systems, but they can actually start using one somewhere else at any time. It's just really dependent on what actually happens at these. And for those haven't been with us the entire time on this group's journey, they are called the rock stars. There were 6 of them. Well, it was 2 adults and 4 sub-adults, but essentially they're all adults, and the sub-adults are like really big already. Just the other, an African wildcat caught one of them. So, and then the dominant started off with 5 pups, and then within a week after emerging, and they were already about 8 weeks old when they came out, 7 to 8 weeks old. Within a week of emerging, two of the little pups had already disappeared. But I see they are out and gambling around this morning, and there are still 3 here, so that's really good. She said, one looks like it wants to fall asleep there. I swear that meerkat is standing up and falling asleep. He is dinkum falling asleep. Butterfly says the rock stars are rocking. No, that they are. Yes, I just had such a chuckle there because that one was the one closest to me. Was literally, he was doing exactly the kind of thing that I would do. Like I'd just, and then they got a frightened, like kind of like jerked awake there. Oh man, they're cute, so cute. Yes, and they got like sand in their hair. That's not like me. You actually need hair to have sand in it. Well, I'm just saying, don't look at me like that, meerkat. It's an observation, not a criticism. Yeah, I don't care if you got sand in your hair. Okay, there's one that's popped up on my side of the bush. Now, Darby won't be able to see it. It's like, popped up right here. Good morning. Man, they are gorgeous little animals, though. So I go, okay, so there's all the 5 adults here, and there was an intruder that they chased away the other day. We haven't seen any further sign of that one, so I don't know where that one's gone to. There goes that leopard with cubs again. Also nice and relaxed though, sure. So you're going to see quite a bit of burrow maintenance here. I'm just joking about the leopard, alright, don't panic. But you're going to see quite a bit of burrow maintenance here just now. They're going to start digging in that, but they'll first warm up a little bit. And as you can see, they're actually in a bit of a shady spot over there. So they'll probably take a little bit more time with the warming up, and then they'll go. And you'll notice when they're warming up, they're normally sitting with their chest facing towards the sun. And that's just because that skin on the chest is very dark, and it's also quite sparsely furred. So they don't have that much hair on the chest, and then facing the sun, they'll actually warm up pretty quickly like it.
We're back sleeping again, but we've moved great distances. We're way past a hyena den now, and what's actually happening, it's really fascinating, is that they're following the tracks of the Ingohumas. So if Theo can just scan along this entire road, I don't know if we'll be able to pick out a track because vehicles, but this road is where the Ingohumas actually travelled this morning up towards Quarantine, and over in this bush they were scent marking. So they were both rubbing their sebaceous glands on their cheeks into the vegetation. They were, well, can't think of a better word, but squirting their marking fluid from their urine. So I think the rest of the pride scent marked there, and therefore they are doing it now, which is really fascinating. I think they're just going to continue very, very slowly. They're probably far, far behind the pride, following the tracks of the pride, not via the tracks, but via scent, and they're going to end up in a similar location. But of course, this pair here have got their own business to attend to. But it's fascinating, we've watched them come the entire way that the tracks come. So they are following the pride, they're just far, far behind because, well, they keep stopping to mate. And Michael Fleetwood, thank you so much for the idea. It's definitely confirmed this is the youngest lioness, and I believe this is the first time we have witnessed her mating. Now, she may have mated, please don't get me wrong, and we just haven't witnessed it as WildEarth. But this is the daughter of Ridgenos, and this is the first time that we've actually witnessed her mating. And she's chosen good old Mohawk. I would have chosen Blondie myself, but just saying. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm just going to let the other vehicle go first, and then we're going to follow. Exactly where I found the tracks this morning, exactly where they cut off into Rebecca's roads. It's amazing, they're taking the exact same pathway that the Pride took. Okay, I'll do my best to keep up with this pair, but down here is a drainage line, so hopefully we'll be able to.
We managed to catch up to our big herd of buffalo. It's quite a large herd of buffalo, yeah? We're going to try and inch forward a bit to show you a clearer view. Hopefully our signal holds. But at least we managed to find the buffalo. We thought, let's at least take the buffalo tracks, because the lion, as I said, we're following the buffalo. And the buffalo tracks are super easy to follow. It's not much getting off the vehicle and walking through the blocks like you have to do with the lion. You can kind of just follow the giant trail of poo. With a buffalo herd this large, you can almost follow them blindfolded. So we thought we'd just swing ahead to the buff. There's a gap through there. And see if perhaps the lions had already caught up to them. It doesn't appear so. These guys are nice and relaxed. They would not be this chilled if one of their mates just got snacked. So it makes me wonder where those lions are. But we'll go back after this, take the tracks again and see if we can see where they ventured off. I don't think they're too far. Of course, this is the ultimate lion food item. Generally top of the menu, especially out here in the Greater Kruger. A big tasty buffalo bull weighing in over 800 kilograms will quite well fill the Nkuma Pride. But it does take power to bring these guys down. They are not to be taken lightly. Powerful horns and bodies can wreak havoc to a lion. And they've got a knack of forming up like a phalanx, like an old Greek military, like the Spartans used to fight, all in a line, protecting each other and moving forward. Often if a buffalo calf or a youngster gets taken by a lion, as it's in its death throes, as the lion are busy killing it, the older bulls and even the cows will reform in that phalanx and push back towards the lion, many times driving it off, and often seriously injuring the lion if they don't back off. Not an animal to be taken lightly. I've many times come very close to getting in trouble myself when you're out on a walk. Generally the herds are quite relaxed. You can hear them from a long way off and you can give them a bit of a berth, and even generally they will move off. The troublesome ones are those old bulls that are often half deaf and half too lazy to move, and they'll just lie there quietly. And if you come walking along nonchalantly and spook them, then they often just come straight for you. And your only option is to get out of the way. And Murphy's Law, generally the only tree worth climbing is a thorn tree. So 9 times out of 10, when you've gotten out of the way of a buffalo, you'll still be full of blood and cuts and scrapes from the thorn tree that you so rapidly climbed. I've had it before with a friend. One story that jumps to mind, we were still kids. We were 10 years old, not too far from here. We were living at the open gate of Kruger Park, actually very close to and beyond Ngala, right there on that boundary. My friend Vukosi and I were just walking down a game path on the way to a water tank that we used to go climb and sit up there and enjoy the view, just being boys. And a buffalo bull got spooked by us, came right for us, and all we could do was just climb a tree and hang on for dear life. It was a very small tree, could barely take the both of us. And this buffalo just wasn't letting up. He was circling at the bottom, snuffing, snorting, thrashing his horns. He really was not happy at our smell. We were just two little kids up the tree, giggling, but also half terrified. Eventually, he moved off and we could come down the tree, giggling like any kids can do, but with a few thorns in our bums. My name is, do animals cough? And they do. I've seen it with quite a few species. Often sneezes too, like you see a cat sneeze. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen a buffalo cough or sneeze. I think I've seen them sneeze. It's generally not like a cough like we do. It's a clearing of the throat. Often more a sneeze than a cough. It's not a wild animal, but I've seen dogs do a lot of that weird throat clearing. It's almost like they get an irritation in their throat and they have to try and scratch it in some other way. Well, glad we caught up to the buffalo. As I say, it doesn't look like any of them got munched. So we're going to turn around, go back to where we last had the lion tracks, and continue the follow.
So we've left those rhinos behind us, and we've been sitting with a herd of zebra, but they've moved off. But there's a couple of warthogs here in front of us. You can just see the one there on the right hand side of the road here in front of us. And it seems like it was like two fully grown females. This is one of the females, and there was a couple of youngsters in between them as well. Oh, there the youngsters, and looks like they're coming out onto the road on the left hand side. Let's just have a look. Again, that's another female there, and then you can see the smaller one to the left hand side, slowly walking away, wagging their tails as they go. And that youngster there, oh, only one of them. Let's see if there's maybe one more that comes out. I can just see a little one behind a tiny bush there. So just two youngsters, that's with these two females, and they are probably around 8 months old now, as these females are probably pregnant already, like carrying quite a few piglets in them for the next breeding season when they will have them. And look at where they've gone now. They've gone to a patch on the road where there's actually shorter grass, but you can see that shorter grass is nice and green, and they are definitely enjoying that a lot more than the dense, long brown grass that's quite dry. Oh, look at the one on the right hand side, the youngster on the right hand side there. He is down on his knees, just enjoying the grass. Actually, like his head going up and down vigorously while he's feeding there. Just munching away. And see how he's actually creeping forward on his knees there. So hopefully we can see it, but he would have, that youngster there would have nice thick pieces of skin on his knees there, and it will most probably callousized over time from sitting like that and feeding. And let's see if we can. Oh, the one on the left hand side has also now done that. Just getting their heads a bit lower to the ground. Very funny to see them actually walking a little bit like that. But it's all just to make it nice and easy for them to feed. Kayla, that is a very interesting question. I don't think they are enemies per se. They don't feed on the same food, so they don't have to fight about that. So I would think that they could probably be friends, because warthogs are feeding on vegetation like grass and maybe roots and so on. And meerkats, their their food is predominantly insects and small vertebrates and so on, and I think that they should be friends, right? Just like Timon and Pumbaa from The Lion King. So I think in certain areas, for example at Tswalu, if there is some warthogs around and maybe a meerkat spots something, they'll alarm call and the warthog can also know about it. So I think a lot of the animals are actually very friendly towards each other, and they like to spend time in groups together so that they can let each other know of any danger. You can see the other females now moved off, telling me that this is probably the mother of these two little piglets. Well, I don't know if you can call them piglets anymore. They probably past that stage now. But you can see that they are sticking around with her, and she's got quite a bit of tusks that's grown out, and just shows you that she is a fully grown female. The youngsters, they probably just have tiny little tusks starting to poke out, and they are really enjoying that patch of short grass. And so I wonder if there's maybe a few little bushes or other flowery plants or so that's maybe growing around there that they also enjoy feeding on. This time of the year when it's so dry, they have to really try and get to the greenest parts of the grass, like you can see there, to try and sustain themselves and keep healthy. And they're not too far away from the closest water, so I'm sure they're going to be feeding. Oh, look at that. You can see how quickly their heads are moving from side to side, trying to feed as much as they possibly can. Really enjoying that. It's quite funny seeing these youngsters stand with their bums in the air like that. I think we are going to keep on driving for a little bit. That herd of buffalo that we saw earlier is not too far away, and we're going to see if we can get a view of them. But for now, I'm going to keep on driving.
So one of them has just moved out to this burrow on the southern side, which is in a far better position in terms of warmth. Okay, it is facing into the teeth of the wind, so that'll kind of perhaps negate that sunlight effect, but I don't think so. It's warming up very, very quickly now. It's probably 10, 11, 12 degrees and increasing. It'll be another warm day today. The pups are just out there to the right. Can you see them, David? Or you? They actually are obscured by the bush now, but they'll pop out just now. We'll just give them a little bit of time. There's absolutely no rush. So this whole thing in terms of the habituation, this is like the crucial part with these youngsters. That people like Rebecca, Veronique, our meerkat habituators, spending time with these meerkats, even when we're not here, is so important to get the youngsters nice and habituated to the presence of people. And obviously it helps that the adults are that relaxed as well. And even Darby's becoming habituated now. We feed him snacks through the day. And you can tame cameramen down sometimes. It's very difficult. We battled with Jandre, incredibly difficult cameraman to tame, but we're working on it. It just shows you how the size of these groups can vary so quickly. There you had a group of 6. Then you had 5 pups born, pushing it to 11. Suddenly 2 pups are gone, down to 9. Suddenly adult gets taken, down to 8. It's just like, the fortunes of these little guys out here can vary so fast. But they are resilient little animals, and I don't think they lose sleep over it. And some of you may be wondering as well, and in fact, a lot of people said, well, what if it was the dominant female that was taken? these pups aren't suckling anymore. So they're actually getting fed by all members of the group now. So as they're foraging, whenever a meerkat finds a prey item, these little pups will run up to it and beg, and they'll actually be quite aggressive with the other little pups as well. So between the pups, they'll be aggressive. So she's not suckling. So even if she was eaten, the other meerkats, the remaining meerkats, know this territory so well. They can look after those pups, so there would not be any kind of impact on the group, and the next female in line would just start breeding then. So wouldn't be any issues. So I don't know if you lost me there, but it sounded like you may have. I was just saying, if the alpha female was caught, there would be no impact on this group whatsoever. The pups are independent. So Jamie has asked, why do they need to be habituated? They don't need to be habituated, but then you would never see meerkat suckers. You would never be able to approach a meerkat group and observe them like we are. So it's a good question, and it's a very valid question. You don't need to habituate anything, but remember, these conservation areas are heavily reliant on tourism in order to become sustainable. And not just here at Tshwane, anywhere. And so when you can start offering very, very unique, very special products for people visiting these areas, whether it's a public park or a private park, it doesn't matter what size it is or what species occur there. People really enjoy being able to see animals up close so they can observe their behavior and really start learning to understand them. And the way to do that is to habituate animals properly.
So we finally got to our waterhole without too many more distractions, and we're looking at a couple of animals a little bit further away than what Dylan was explaining now. But if we start, look at that. That is, that's a leopard-faced vulture that's just come in. That really big one that was in frame. I want to just double check with my binoculars, but yeah, that's a leopard face, and it's only just arrived. And where it's flying, there's two of them. Jeepers. So they must have arrived as a pair, and I wonder if maybe, because on that exact same tree there was a white-backed vulture that was here since we've been here for about 20 minutes. And I wonder if these leopard-faced vultures had circled high enough in the sky, they might have spotted that white-faced vulture. I mean, not the white-faced, the white-backed vulture, and they would have come in for a closer look, which is very interesting. And so, like I say, this is the waterhole we wanted to come towards, and the reason why is that nice stretch of golden grass between the water and the tree line provides a nice open area for animals to rest for the day and to feed. So when they come down to drink, they drink, and then they tend to stick around. And so we do see quite a lot of animals together. And I mean, this is such a prime example. And see the different species if we go from left to right. So starting off with those big waterbuck. They are the most numerous ones there. So that one right in the middle with the beautiful big horns. A couple lying down. There's a youngster off to the right. And then a few of the adults are feeding down to the left. And then there's another, there's our second species in this cluster, the very dark wildebeest there. Also just come down to drink, and it's got its head down and it's feeding. And because it's by itself, this is more than likely the territorial male in this area. And look what he's doing. There we go. That gives us a very good indication that he is scraping with his front left leg. So just getting some scent onto his spot over there. There was a third species in this little group who were a bit further to the right, closer to the water's edge there. The ever-present impala. And it's just the two of them. And it looks like there's a couple that are going head-to-head there. And this is the nice thing about this waterhole in particular, because it's so big and open, they can spot predators coming from a long distance away. But what's even cooler is we've just seen quite a nice large herd of animals coming down to drink. If we pan even further to the right and a little bit closer. So now that is mammal species number 4 with the zebra there. So we've got wildebeest, we've got impala, waterbuck and zebra, all pretty much in one shot. And it's interesting to see how those zebras, starting on the right-hand side, coming down to drink, looks like they're trying to get closer to the impala. At least one of them was. And just look how quick they drink super quickly. So head down, 1 or 2 sips, and the head pops straight back up again. Where the zebras, slightly bigger, less potential threats and predators, they might be more comfortable with their heads very, very low to the ground. And surprising to see them walking into the water. But I guess if you look at the way that the wind is blowing, so those waves are blowing all the surface debris onto the edge of this bank. And so to walk in just might help get a little bit cleaner water. It's really cool to see all of them in one big long line over there. Alfred, it is a magical scene. And that is so cool because this dam is actually called the Alfred Dam. So it's named after you. And so the interesting thing about this water when we arrived, and I mentioned those vultures coming in, is we've got something floating which looks like an impala carcass that hasn't been touched. And there it is right at the edge. So it's completely intact and we have no idea what happened to it.
So we've got more elephants. There's just elephants on every road, it seems like, here at Pride Lands. And with this group, we've got a very tiny elephant who's quite being shielded right now by this female. Not really, she's just in front of the young one. But we actually came to this area. We could try and see if we could relocate a leopard that had been spotted earlier by one of the other vehicles. We haven't been lucky with the leopard. Oh, but you can hear lots of little rumblings from these elephants around us. Look what this one's doing. It looks like it's actually falling asleep here. You see when the trunk rests like that on the ground, often they're getting a little bit sleepy. But all the elephants starting to move off now. Hello, lady. Lots of gorgeous elephants around on Pride Lands at the moment. Oh, this is the one with the 2 hearts in its ear. Oh, that's cute. It's got 2 little heart holes in its ear. We've seen this female before. She's very cool. Hey there, lady. Don't know if you can see those 2 little hearts in its ear. Very cute. Yes, so there's lots of elephants on Pride Lands at the moment, but one of them just made a little rumble, which means that it seems like all of them are going to start moving away from us now, heading probably up the slope towards the shadier, bigger trees on the crest, or even towards Ndlovu Dam. If they keep going that way, they come to the dam at our camp, which is actually where we're going to be heading next, because we saw another elephant herd which looked like they might be going to have a drink.
Go you on the little ones. Okay, so the little alpha female is the one standing out here on the left. This is on the far left. Darby, can you see this one standing out here? Sorry, so this is the one that had the pups. And this is the one that I just said earlier that if she was caught by a wildcat or goshawk, whatever, there would be no impact on the group, absolutely. But it is just nice to know that your dominant one is still there, that there's no impact there. And it sounds like really harsh, but I'm glad it was one of the others and not her. Because often your leaders like that are the ones that have this reservoir of knowledge just of the area and the threats that may be there. And it's not that the others don't, it's just that the depth of that knowledge of your older animals tends to be greater. And I mean, that holds true for any species, including humans. Well, we like to think that our older leaders have some good knowledge, eh? It's not always the case, folks. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And a good example of that is things with like elephants. You know, your matriarch in these herds often have such an intimate knowledge of the environments over massive distances that in the event there's things like droughts or big fires, these matriarchs know exactly where to take the herds, where the old water points are, where the old routes are, where the good feeding is at certain times of the year. And that knowledge does get passed down over years, and sometimes there's links that go back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Sorry, I just lost the question there from Megan. Okay, so Megan's question is, do you look the meerkats in the eye? Absolutely. I've always found that an interesting concept, because there's so many things like, people say, and I always wonder about these people, you're walking in the bushes, you must never look an aggressive lion in the eye. Okay, someone that says that has never, ever in their lives experienced that situation. Please, if you have a lion that's just charged you and you're standing there, trust me, you're looking it in the eye very, very closely. But that's a really good question in terms of the meerkats. Yeah, these meerkats looking in the eye would have no impact on them, no negative impact, and you can see it. They're looking at us all the time. We're looking at them all the time. So that's a really interesting question, but I just did want to relate that to the humor of lions and animals charging, that kind of stuff. Not that you ever have that often, but it's just, there's nothing quite like something like that focuses the mind in such clarity. Their eyesight I reckon their eyesight is way better than ours. We've chatted about it before as well. I've sat in places with binoculars with meerkats alarm calling, giving off this high-pitched bark, a very, very intense bark when they've spotted a key predator. And one of the big ones out here for them is a bird called a martial eagle, and also these goshawks. And they're alarming, and they're watching, and you can see exactly, you cannot see that eagle. So their eyesight is exceptionally good. It's probably their most finely tuned sense out of all of them. So Anna Marie has just asked, which sense do meerkats rely on the most? You cannot say they rely on any sense the most. We can say with a fairly certain degree with a degree of certainty which senses are better, but they are 100% dependent for survival on all of their senses. So you cannot take a meerkat and if it's blind, well, that meerkat is going to die. If it's deaf, that meerkat is going to die. If it cannot smell, that meerkat is going to die. So you can't say, one sense is is the reliance on one sense more than the other. All of them are, a meerkat is the sum of all its parts. You can't extract one and say, well, this one is actually the most important. You can say that they are heavily reliant on eyesight for spotting prey, but they are heavily reliant on their sense of smell for detecting food. They're relying on their hearing for listening out for danger or alarm calls from other meerkats. So they're all important.
So a couple of minutes ago we showed you that impala carcass that hadn't been touched yet, and naturally we would think that this animal on frame would be one of the biggest culprits. And it just doesn't seem like it is from the crocodiles. And the reason why is just because it's completely intact still. So we still haven't really figured out what's caused that impala to drown and be in the water. But this crocodile was putting on a show for us. It was swimming very, very gently towards the edge, and we thought that it was going to climb out. Maybe it's just taking a moment to survey the area before it thinks it's safe enough to walk back out of the water. But we do have another one who's much closer, who's facing directly towards us. And just look at how wide that body is. It is a huge crocodile. One of the weirdest and scariest animals out here, I think. And just look at how sharp and how pointy the scales are on the top of the back over there, and then how that goes all the way down to the tail. Those long scales. And so it's been a very chilly morning, so this crocodile's come out to sunbathe. Shahida, yes, I think so. And you know what might be a factor to them not feeding on the carcass just yet is I have heard of crocodiles almost stashing a kill in the water. And if there's not too much competition, like there's not in this water, there's only 2 crocodiles here, there might be enough food to go around. And the advantage of stashing the kill in the water is that the meat starts to decompose. And for an animal that can't chew properly, it literally bites and swallows whole, it makes it a lot easier to break off pieces of the carcass. And so that could be a factor. But I have seen it a number of times where there's been a carcass in the water, and in this waterhole in particular, and these crocodiles don't seem to be too interested in going after it. You know, I always imagine this feeding frenzy of crocodiles swarming in and just ripping a carcass to shreds, and it's disappeared within a couple of minutes. But it's not the case, especially in this waterhole at least. And just look at how this one's swimming. I mean, the whole body's still, and just look at how slowly the crocodile moves its tail back and forth as it moves forward. And just look at how still it moves. There's not a single wave or a ripple that it creates. And that's one of the ways that it sneaks up to its prey. So if it was going after that impala, it would have probably felt and picked up that these impalas were coming down to drink. And it would have completely submerged itself and used that tail, exactly what it's doing now, to swim as close as possible to those impalas as it could. And then when it feels that the crocodile's coming down to drink, then it uses its tail a lot more aggressively. And because it's so thick and full of muscle, it's got an unbelievable acceleration. And so it can go from sitting still in the water, it accelerates, and it can accelerate incredibly fast forward, and hopefully just latches onto either the impala's head or the throat, or maybe one of the front legs as it's drinking. See now, and it's still there. And in the foreground, we're joined by another water animal, is the hippo. And just look at how much more movement it creates as it's moving through. So it's heads up. You can hear the noise as it exhales and blows water from its nostrils. It almost seems like there's some sort of courting happening between these two hippos, because that one in the front end is a female and the one at the back is a male. And this male seems to just... Ooh, listen. So that male's not letting that female move too far before he reacts and follows her. And there's that crocodile. See, it looks like it's wanting to come out. And you might find it will take a couple of steps out of the water hole and then it will just sit. And it still wants to have the protection of the water. On land, it might feel slightly exposed. I don't think that there's too many animals that will voluntarily target a crocodile, even if it's out of the water. But it just wants a quick access to scurry into the water where it feels much more at home. So lekker, you're asking if the crocodiles prefer land to water, and I would definitely say they prefer water. I mean, they're a largely aquatic species, and they only come out onto land for, I guess, thermoregulation. So they're wanting to warm up themselves by basking in the sun, quite like this one in frame is doing. But if it wanted to and if it chose to, it would move into the water, and that's where it feels the most at home. They might only, I suppose the females will come out of the water to lay their eggs, but then again they create the nest, lay their eggs, come back into the water, and so they don't spend lots of time out of the water if they can choose to. See that one there, looks like it might be coming out now. No, obviously didn't like that spot, and so now it's moving along. And as it moves along that bank, it's getting closer and closer towards the animals we had a little bit earlier on. So that would be the impalas and the waterbuck. But that's a relatively small crocodile. It's much smaller than the one that's sunbathing next to us. And so I don't think he would target those. So Kira, you're 13 years old, and if I were to give a size, I would say it's roughly about the size of a soccer field, both in... Oh, the crocodile's coming out. It's finally found a spot, and it's literally just walked out, got most of its body out, and it's sat straight back down. Its tail's still in the water. Sorry, Kira, so just to get back to that question, I would probably say it's roughly about 100 meters in length and maybe just under maybe 80 meters or so in width. And so there's lots of water here, but it is reasonably shallow. So evaporation does happen quite quickly in this waterhole. And last year at this time, it was probably about a fifth of what it is now. So there's still lots and lots of water. The hippos are comfortable here, and hopefully it holds water well enough to keep water in here for these animals until until the rainy season, which should hopefully start in October, maybe November time. So And those waterbuck are slowly moving off. That wildebeest has found a spot to settle down in. Both of the herds of zebra and impala that we saw coming down to drink drank, and they turned around and they headed straight back towards where they came from, which tells me that they might have journeyed a little bit further than what these waterbuck would have to come and have something to drink. It seems like it's a really nice peaceful day at this waterhole. There's not too much more action here, so I think Owen and I might try and find something for the last half an hour of the drive.
And we got them. The tracking paid off, and our morning was successful. We present the Nguma Pride. It was quite the run around, quite the tracking operation. After leaving the buffalo, we had to go back, pick up on where we left off. And coupled with the effort of trying to find them is the fact that we are now quite far down in Simbambili where our signal isn't very good, so we are literally reversed very high up a termite mound, almost at a downward 90-degree angle into the ground. So unfortunately we can't get our frame as straight as normal. Craig's doing his best there, but if you could see us, you'd see we pretty much got the rear of the vehicle facing skywards. But doesn't matter because we found the line and our tracking paid off, so we are super stoked. Like I say, it was quite the morning of tracking up and down in the block, lose the tracks, get back off the vehicle, go follow them into the game path, come out the other side, sprint back to the vehicle, carry on, but it paid off. Awesome. Some sleepy lions. Doesn't look like they made their buffalo kill, but we are, not even 200 meters from those buffalo, so maybe tonight they'll give it a go. Well, I'm not seeing any evokers with them. These females are capable of pulling down a buffalo, but the added strength of the evokers would definitely help. Just so amped and stoked and happy that we found these lion. Lekker, man.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family.
These pups are growing so fast now. by the day. If you think just even a week ago, 2 weeks ago, when how tiny and fragile. I mean, they are still tiny and they are still fragile, but nothing compared to where they are today. Yes, they grow so fast. One day they'll be at school, the next thing they're at varsity. But there's still a long path ahead of these little guys. They are far from being out of the woods. But someone just said next thing they have kids. Well, let's not even go there. But yeah, oh man, this is adorable. But becoming more and more active. I love it when they hold on like that. Ooh, ooh, nah. So this behavior is so important. We see it as play behavior, and it is play behavior, but it's all geared towards survival. So grabbing each other by the scruff of the neck, rolling, tumbling, fighting like it. They are learning crucial life skills, and not just being able to defend themselves or sort of stand their ground within the group, but also as defense against predators. If they get attacked by something, a meerkat that gets grabbed by a predator doesn't just like lie there and say, all right, oh, okay, it's my turn to go kind of thing. It's like they fight. And so all of this play behavior that they're learning now at this very, very early age is really geared towards survival. So, we, like I say, we see it as play, but there's a deeper lesson there. And not just in terms of predator avoidance and competition within the group, but sometimes their prey fights back. Things like a big scorpion, can put up a fairly spirited defense against a meerkat. And we've got incredibly venomous scorpions out here. These big Parabuthus granulatus, Parabuthus rhodus. There's a whole pile of them that are just, So these meerkats will start learning the way of dealing with those kind of delicacies. Also group defense with snakes and monitor lizards. This social bonding during play is critically important for enhancing that group cohesion in the face of potential threats. We've mentioned it before that one of our meerkats has actually watched an African wildcat catch a meerkat pup at one stage, not with this group, it was a different group. Ruth has just asked, how long do they spend on the lookout every day? They spend the entire day on the lookout. They have to, because otherwise if they don't, they'll get killed. That's the long and the short of it. But what it is it's not the same animal on lookout duty all the time, because they also need to forage. So they'll keep alternating, but the entire day is devoted to vigilance. So what you're seeing here now, that single animal just standing up and looking around, that is taking place right through the day. From the time they come out the burrow till the time they go back in, while they're at the burrows, while they're foraging, there will always be a meerkat or more on the lookout for danger. Coming back to that wildcat story, so one of our meerkat habituators actually watched an African wildcat run in, grab a meerkat pup, run off with it. It wasn't this group, it was another group a couple of years ago. And the meerkats actually chased that cat. They chased after it. And the cat got such a fright, it dropped the pup, and they got the pup back unharmed. So it's pretty remarkable what they are capable of if, with that group cohesion is so important for their survival. Yes, that is cuteness factor deluxe kicking in there. But they are just so stable on their feet now. They're tiny bit wonky, but not too bad. But I mean, just all their motor drive skills are just kicking in so well. I don't think they're going to be that much longer at the burrow. I think they're going to move off, starting to forage fairly soon. There's one out of sight on the far side of the burrows. We can't see it from where we are, but that one's actually sort of crouching down, looking around out towards the west. The west here is the direction that the camera is facing, so that is west. The sun is behind us. And I think they're going to be heading down in that direction to go forage today. So it'll be interesting to see where they end up this evening, at which burrow system they'll be at. Lorel has just asked, do meerkats play games? Do they play dead? Oh, do they play? So I am so deaf, so if I butcher someone's name or get a question wrong, just forgive me. No, meerkats don't play dead. There are a lot of animals that do that. Mammals, reptiles, insects. You get really cool insects like weevils that are classic at doing that. Meerkats don't do it. I've actually seen video footage, really good video footage of dwarf mongoose doing it, which is quite interesting, but I've yet to see a meerkat doing it. And to my knowledge, I don't think they do it.
My lions don't play dead. They just look it. Very sleepy, exhausted. And it's been interesting to watch them. She's getting very, I know this is a human word and I'm probably anthropomorphizing here, but she's very grumpy. She's really not tolerating him well. And I think she's in pain. I mentioned this the other day with the other lioness, tattered-eared lioness with Blondie. Their genitals swell quite greatly. And he actually has a barbed penis. I know that sounds really strange, but it's barbed. And during the act of mating, it doesn't hurt, but on the extraction, when he's pulling out, it's very, very painful for her. Well, I don't know how painful, but I know that a barbed penis, I imagine, would be painful. And that's why she turns around and swipes him, and there's a lot of growling. He will always stand above her, and he normally bites her neck. Any lion does this. And there's lots of reasons for this. One of the reasons is that it's said to calm the lioness down. Because when, well, any felidae actually, any felid, when they're young, the mother picks them up by the neck. As you know, many animals do this. So it's said to calm her down when he holds her by the neck. It's also to steady her, because she could turn around and swipe him at any moment. And a cut from her claw could take out his eye. So he does that to control her, but also to calm her at the same time. And I think she's in a lot of pain. I just think the whole process for her it's necessary. She'll have lots of urges, but it's really not the most pleasant thing for her to go through. Now, the barbed penis has obviously sort of evolved this way through natural selection. So although it's painful, it helps stimulate her to ovulate. So I think she's probably very swollen, hungry, tired. Really, I don't think it's an easy process for either of them. And that's exactly why they are exhausted. They've probably foregone water, not eaten in a few days. I can imagine. If I don't eat in a few hours, I get grumpy, I get hangry. So I can only imagine how it feels to be this bare. And they've moved such a distance. We're almost at quarantine for any of you who are familiar with the reserve. And we came from Treehouse Dam. So we've came very, very far. They're just on the move. And well done to David for finding the Nkahuma Pride on Simbambili, which means that they will probably make their way across. They're following the pride just very, very slowly. And they're doing this through scent, which is just utterly amazing. They're navigating their landscape entirely different from how a human would navigate their landscape. We would use visual cues. We would look for signs. We would look for tracks. We would look for any sort of indication that told us the pride was moving that way, visually. The lions are not doing that at all. They're not looking for tracks. They're not looking for the lions themselves. They're following them through scent. And it's became really apparent they're literally scent marking on every bush or low-hanging vegetation that the pride has scent marked on. It's been really interesting following this pair this morning. And they know they'll never lose the pride, so they'll be able to sort of get into the same area if they wish, and then they can start calling, contact calls, and the rest of the pride will always respond. They'll always reunite if they want to. And normally when we look at a lion, we see that fast, heavy panting, that heavy breathing, because they're full and uncomfortable. And this is not the case here. This is a sort of breathing pattern of someone that's sleeping quite deeply. And it's not the best views. I know it's the only views we have. They're right in front of the car and flat. You would probably drive past them. They're very well camouflaged in the sort of winter colour scheme. That monotonous tawny landscape colour. The dry colour of the dead grass is perfect for lines to blend into. Hopefully they're around this afternoon, but I do think they will start making their way west. I just don't know how long it's going to take for them to cross out. It's also going to be interesting to know exactly where they are in the afternoon. How much distance did they cover in between mating and sleeping? Butterfly. You're saying how sweet they're even sleeping together. Yes, I don't think she has much choice. I don't exactly know how sweet it is. He is just guarding her every moment because he could lose her. If another male came, which is highly unlikely at this stage, she could easily take off with him and start a new honeymoon, shall we say. And it's been recorded for lionesses to actually wait until the male is sleeping or he's occupied and scoot off with another male. It's been recorded many times, and that is because she's not loyal to him. She's seeking the best sort of avenues for her offspring, for her bloodline. The best genetics, mating with more males, confusing the paternity. There's so many reasons behind it, but it has been recorded that as soon as that male goes into a deep sleep or is otherwise occupied, he'll lose her. And the minute another male who has recently fed and recently hydrated gets her, he's got no chance. He's exhausted, poor soul. Really, really exhausted. So the minute another male comes in, and can lose her. And that's why he's guarding her so fiercely. But yes, it does look rather sweet that they're sleeping together, facing one another. She has all the power here. It really is sort of, well, it lies in the power of the females. And they've been snarling at one another constantly. I don't think they really like each other that much. It's just a necessary act that they both must go through. Okay, we're nearing the end of the drive, but of course we're going to sit tight here and hopefully get that one last bout of mating before the end.
While we are still here with the Nkuhumas, just appreciating the sighting, I must say, I've been on Simbambili a few times now and it's always delivered. A lovely property and a privilege to traverse. Lovely working with all the guys on the property, Mike and Andrew and Justin and Saber. They're always so helpful, following up with tracks and locating what they can. Lovely to have fellow rangers that appreciate the bush as much and assist one. I wonder what will transpire tonight. These buffalo so near, they're actually slowly moving in this direction. It's amazing how they blend in. When you aren't expecting lion, 99.9% of the time they'll alert you to their presence before you see them if you're on foot. Because to come walking through this grass, we make lots of noise, and the lion will hear you and start looking at you from a long way off, way before you can see them. They blend in so well. And when you get within their comfort zone range, then they'll give a little growl just to tell you they're there. And that's when you stop and freeze and stare intently into the bush, oftentimes still not able to see anything. Eventually you might see the flick of a tail, and then the face of a lioness with those piercing yellow eyes becomes visible all of a sudden as she peers at you through the long grass. The sight of that with the low warning growl is often enough to make your heart triple in beats per minute, no matter how seasoned you are out here. There's something about walking with lion on foot and encountering them when they warn you. But on a vehicle like this, they are so relaxed, not fazed by us at all. Lovely to be able to view them up close like this. Well, it's been a lovely morning for us. Craig and I really working on our tracking and trailing. What a privilege to be out here in the greater Kruger and bring you the beauty of nature.
And the burrow maintenance continues. Sorry, we lost your audio there a little bit. So where I'm standing at now, it's exactly, I think, this is the direction that they're going to start moving out in. But let's see. They're probably going to be here for another 10-15 minutes, I'd guess. But even the little ones are starting to get involved with their digging now. It's more kind of like just replicating what the adults are doing. Mr. Chief has asked, how often do they switch their security guard position? It really depends on the individual meerkat. It's, you know, if they've been standing facing in one direction a long time, they'll keep looking around. So it's not that they have to physically turn the whole body to get a different angle. You know, you can see it like shifts on that spot like that. So yeah, I don't think there's any set thing there. It just depends on the individual. But good question. As long as they're getting a 360 view, then they're quite happy. So we're just going to spend probably another couple of minutes here with these little guys to see which direction they're actually going to go out foraging. And I'd love to know just how this area that we're in now compares in terms of foraging compared to the other burrows that they were at. Because very often they move these burrows, also dependent on how good the feeding is. Yes, I'm really mixing up my words this morning. How good the feeding is in a particular area. So they could have utilized that area heavily, and now they've moved on to this area just because there's better forage available here. But such charismatic little animals, and it's always fun to watch them in the mornings and just like watching these little ones grow up and that. It's just going to be so cool. But yeah, that being said, wherever you are in the world, whatever your plans are today, just please stay safe. It is such a privilege having you with us, and we will see you again this afternoon. Cheerio.